Life has a way of throwing unexpected storms our way. One moment, everything is smooth sailing, and the next, we are caught in waves of uncertainty, fear, and chaos. How do we respond in those moments? Do we panic or do we trust? Jesus once faced a literal storm with his disciples, and what happened that night teaches us an unforgettable lesson about finding peace in the midst of life's fiercest trials. A day of miracles, a night of fear. It had been a long day. Jesus had spent hours teaching crowds, healing the sick, and revealing the mysteries of God's kingdom. As evening approached, he told his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." It seemed like a simple journey, just a boat ride across the Sea of Galilee. The disciples, many of whom were experienced fishermen, knew these waters well. It was routine, familiar, nothing to worry about. But as they set sail, exhaustion crept in. Jesus, weary from the day's work, lay down at the stern of the boat and fell into a deep sleep. The gentle rocking of the waves, the cool night air, it was the perfect setting for rest, until everything changed. The storm breaks. Seemingly out of nowhere, a violent storm swept over the sea. The once peaceful waters turned into a raging force, tossing their small boat like a toy in the wind. The sky darkened, and lightning flashed as the wind roared like a wild beast. Towering waves crashed over the sides, filling the boat with water. The disciples fought desperately to keep control, but the storm was stronger. Fear gripped their hearts. These men were not strangers to storms, but this was different. This storm was life-threatening. Panic took hold, and yet, in the middle of the chaos, Jesus was still asleep. Where is God in the storm? Imagine the disciples' frustration. They were battling for their lives, doing everything they could to survive. And Jesus was just sleeping. Did he not care? Could he not see what was happening? Was he unaware of the danger they were in? Finally, they could take it no longer. They rushed to him, shaking him awake. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" It wasn't just a question. It was an accusation. It was the cry of every fearful heart that has ever faced an overwhelming storm. "God, where are you? Don't you see what's happening to me? Why aren't you doing something?" Jesus speaks, the storm listens. Jesus opened his eyes. He looked around at the panicked faces, the raging waters, the howling wind. And then he stood up. Without hesitation, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Instantly, the storm obeyed. The wind stopped. The sea became as calm as glass. In a moment, everything changed. The disciples stood in stunned silence. Their fear of the storm had been replaced by a greater awe. Who is this man that even the wind and the waves obey him? Faith over fear. Jesus turned to his disciples, and his next words cut straight to the heart. "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" He wasn't rebuking them for waking him up. He wasn't angry that they sought his help, but he was challenging their hearts. They had seen him heal the sick, cast out demons, and perform miracles. They had heard his teachings about the power of faith. And yet, when the storm came, they still doubted. Jesus wasn't just calming a storm on the sea. He was teaching them how to calm the storms within their hearts. Finding peace in our own storms life is full of storms. Sometimes they come suddenly, like a phone call that changes everything. A lost job, a broken relationship, a bad diagnosis. Other times they build slowly, like the weight of stress, anxiety, and worry that refuses to go away. In those moments, we often respond like the disciples, panicked, fearful, convinced that Jesus is asleep while we struggle. But here's the truth. Jesus is always in the boat with us. He may not always stop the storm immediately. Sometimes he allows the winds to rage a little longer, but he is never absent. He is never unaware, and he is never powerless. When we truly trust him, we find a peace that is stronger than any storm. The storms will come, but so will Jesus. Jesus never promised a life without storms, but he did promise that he would be with us. He promised that no storm is greater than his power. So when life gets overwhelming, remember, Jesus is in your boat. You are not alone. Your storm is not bigger than your God. Even the wind and waves obey him. peace comes from trust, not control. Let go of fear and hold on to faith. The disciples set sail that evening thinking they were just crossing a sea. Instead, they encountered the power of God in a way they never expected. So the next time the waves rise and the winds howl, remember Jesus' words, "Quiet, be still." He is still speaking those words today to the storms around us and the storms within us. The question is, will we trust him